Hello and welcome to Artbreak. I'm Danielle and I run Soda Arts, which is a curatorial consultancy here in Sydney. I'd like to start the Artbreak today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land where I live and work, which are the Gadigal and Wongal peoples of the Eora Nation. These are lands that were never ceded. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present and emerging, and thank them for their care of this land. So today we are taking a 15-minute art break with the wonderful Penelope Davis, who I am just going to bring up, so please bear with me. There we go.
Are we there?
Hello.
Hello. Oh my God, technology.
It's totally fine. I think it's just the way it goes. Yeah, that's fine. People are very...
I kept pressing request and then this red band would come across the top of my phone saying your request was not sent. I just kept going bang, 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 bang.
Well, we're here. We made it. Thank you.
We're here.
Thank you. Penelope, welcome. So for those, there might be some people that aren't familiar with your work, so I thought I would do a very brief introduction to you, who I should say we've worked together on a project, one of my most favourite projects that we did together a couple of years ago with the wonderful folk at Arup. But we can talk a little bit about that project in a little bit. But so, Penelope, you're a prolific artist. You've had this amazing career. You've been an artist for all your life. I don't really know. Your father was an artist, so you are the living embodiment of the Australian arts.
That's high praise.
Oh, no problem. And so you're primarily known as a post-photographic artist and for creating photographs without using a camera, which you might want to elaborate on a little bit when we talk. But where I met you and where we came into contact was when you took a bit of a pivot in your work and started producing more sculptural pieces, but interestingly using a very similar technique that you did in your photographic work, casting objects in resin and then painstakingly sewing that together to create these beautiful sculptural forms. And the initial sculptures were inspired by a very specific environmental event in Melbourne a number of years ago, in which thousands of jellyfish washed up on the shores of Port Phillip Bay. And your sort of research into that and why that occurred led to you creating the beautiful work Sea Change, which is how we met and worked together. But as an artist, you've exhibited all over the world. You're held in all major collections, private and public.
Just some. Not
You're humble, you're self-deprecating. And you're also mum to a teenager, which makes you a hero. So that is you. Welcome.
Thank you. It's really nice to see your face, Danielle.
Oh, thanks, Penelope. So perhaps you could start by telling us where you are at the moment.
Okay, so I'm actually in the front room of my house, which is has been a makeshift studio for the past few months. So around about the end of March, beginning of April, when everything looked very perilous with COVID-19 and a lot of the lockdowns started, I was in a group studio situation, and also my son started homeschooling. So I thought if I can work at home, that's going to be the best thing for all of us, the least dangerous, and also for him, I think it was important that there was someone there during the day. He's quite independent, but pretty lonely and depressing, I think, doing homeschooling on your own. So, so I moved a whole lot of my studio. It's still there, but I've moved a whole lot of it home into the front room. And the actual siliconing work that I was, the messy stuff, I moved into the shed, into about four feet of space in the backyard. So That's what I've been doing for the past few months. But actually, this weekend I'm moving back into my studio. My son's back at school, and lockdown seems to be easing, and I think it's a lot safer at the studio. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. And so what is the work that you're making at the moment? Could you tell us a bit about that?
So, I'm making sculptures, wall sculptures, and they're I'm using actually wire hanging baskets as the armatures, and also welding extra bit of metal on to create more interesting shapes, and then covering them with bits of cast silicon, sort of hand sewn together. And I'll show you in a minute because they're right here around me. But
Great.
they're sorry.
I was like, great.
But the a friend of mine came into my studio before lockdown. Kate Just, she's an artist too, obviously, and she looked at them and she said, "Pen, these are looking a lot like wreaths." And I thought, my God, that's, it was like a lightning bolt moment. I thought that makes complete sense. So yeah, I'm making this new body of work, and I'm calling them wreaths. And the idea of them being wreaths makes complete sense because wreaths are often used as symbols of someone, they make you think of funerals and death and people passing and things that that we're losing. So yeah, that they kind of feed into that whole idea of everything that we're losing at the moment through climate change, environmental degradation, loss of species, loss of habitats, terrible problems for people living in environments that have been horribly degraded. Also, they make a lot of sense at the moment too within the context of the pandemic. So all the lives that have been lost, the jobs that have been lost, the economic fallout, and now there's massive political upheaval. The human world is in a state of, and natural, we're in a state of crisis. And
Yes.
there's a lot of loss. The whole Black Lives Matter movement at the moment, loss. It's, so they make sense in that context, but they've also taken on, they're these strange hybrid wreaths, really. Wreaths traditionally are also used to symbolise growth. So, at the beginning of spring, the kind of pagan symbols of growth, Christmas, all that kind of thing. So these wreaths are kind of turgid and a bit sinister, and they're starting to look like viruses. There's something really virulent and nasty about them. They're kind of sticky and shiny, and lurid colours. And so, yeah, they kind of make sense in terms of death and growth, loss and life. Yeah, anyway, I'll show you.
Yes, do. Please show us.
And the camera. Do I have to? I'll turn the screen around. Hang on.
Okay. I can see one in the background there.
Let's go. Hang on. How do we do this? There we go. So
yes.
This is what I'm working on at the moment. It's probably the biggest one so far. And each of these little components has been individually cast.
So what's that you've cast from?
Well, this is from a throwaway plastic object. from a $2 shop. I didn't find this one. I actually bought it. And it's I think it's used to mix rice when you're preparing sushi rice. I don't know why you wouldn't use a fork or some kind of paddle. It's kind of a pointless, I don't know, it's a pointless object, but most of the objects I cast from kind of talk to that whole idea of throwaway consumables, plastic objects, old bits of electrical, old bits of mobile phones or electrical plugs or something like that. Things that have a short life, that are produced for mass consumption and build up horrific waste and cause, all sorts of damage through their manufacturing processes. So I guess all these little things that I cast off, they're not immediately recognisable when you're just sort of glancing at the work, but then perhaps you can start sort of recognising that that they might resemble something. So I want to kind of make kind of exploring the idea of human complicity with the sort of with environmental degradation and climate change and all the disasters that are kind of imperiling us at the moment. So
yeah, I think complicity is such a word at the moment, isn't it? This idea of what we're complicit in, either overtly or, inadvertently. Yeah. But that question of, well, where are we? Oh, wow. Oh, that's amazing.
So that's starting to look like an iris, I reckon.
Oh, that's
anyway,
incredible.
I'll put the phone back. Sorry, this is there's the cat.
Hello, cat. Well, do you know what? It's already been 14 minutes. So, and the idea of these talks is to keep them short and sharp. So I am just going to round off with one. I mean, there's always so many more questions I want to ask people, but I will round off because I do think this is important, and your perspective, I know, will be great on this question, which is, why do you think art has value in times like these, when we are just looking at this, like as you just pointed out, the landscape of everything? Well, where do you see the role of art in this, and how do you think its value? What is its value in that?
Yeah, well, it's a really important question for artists, I think, and I've thought a bit about it, and I think that art actually harnesses people's imaginations. Rather than just telling people what's going on or presenting people with a range of dry empirical facts or being, some didactic statement or something, art actually harnesses people's imaginations, and it's in that imaginative space, I think, when people are viewing work, if work can evoke an imaginative or an emotional response in people, then it can really, like, have you ever read a really astounding novel or something and thought, yes, that she had, or that author has just sort of described that feeling that I often have, that I find indescribable, or that observation or something like that. It's like art can recontextualize things and gives people, using their imagination, it gives them space to develop empathy, maybe, to be able to think about things in a way that personalizes it. So I think that's really important, because then that can help people, maybe take action or just be more aware. But the other thing it does, which is important too, is I think that art bears witness to what's going on. So often I'm just thinking of that image from the Tiananmen Square protests of that little man standing with his shopping bag standing in front of a military tank. That image just sort of sums it all up, and you know, that's kind of the power of images, and yeah, art can really do that. Guernica, you know, Picasso's Guernica, it bears witness to what's happened, and I think that art that is produced at the moment during this time will be, a lot of it will be doing that as well.
Yes, actually, I was having this conversation with someone that just once we come, there's a bit of critical distance from this moment to look back and see the work that has been made, because as you so beautifully demonstrated as well, I think artists are so responsive to the world around them and to what's happening. And you know, the way that your work, you're saying it's becoming a bit more like a virus. This, you know, these amazing ability to kind of absorb everything and then put it back out in, you know, a variety of different sorts of formats and languages. But that is what.
Well, we're also not beholden to anyone. Artists have a lot of freedom in that, so we're not beholden to politicians or to you know, employers when we're making our art. You know, we've got an enormous amount of freedom, which is great.
Yeah. Oh, well, look, with that, we're going to have to wrap up our art break on that final note. A positive note. We did the whole roller coaster of feelings in 15 minutes. It was great. Well, thank you so much, Penelope. If people would like to get in contact with you or find you, you're represented by Mars Gallery in Melbourne, and your website.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, yes, well, thank you again, and for doing Artbreak at this special time of Friday. Next week, we'll be back to our usual 2 p.m. on a Wednesday with Lucas Abella is coming to have a chat next week. So look forward to seeing you and anyone then.
Great. Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you. Bye.